Hey, what's up? It's Bon, and today I want to talk about Exodus. This is a new game by Archetype Entertainment. This is a studio that is born of a bunch of former devs of other studios. This has been especially popular in recent years with all of the acquisitions that are going on. One thing to know about these acquisitions, like the most notable recent one being Activision Blizzard King being acquired by Microsoft, depending on the makeup of the benefits packages and stuff of all of the devs who work at the studios that get acquired, they often are being rewarded with stocks and things like that. And what happens when these big acquisitions go on is the people who are at the companies, the value of their stocks tend to go up a lot, and they tend to get packages that are very notably worth a lot of money. And this is especially true with senior leadership. And so what happens is often after these big acquisitions, there's a couple year vestment where you don't actually own those stocks until you get vested. But once that happens, a lot of people sell the stocks they had because they've been inflated significantly by the acquisition, and then they go and they do their own stuff. And so in the case of you know, Archetype Entertainment, what we have is that the company is owned, the CEO is James Olin, who is a 22-year vet of BioWare. So that wasn't an acquisition thing, that was a probably getting out of Dodge thing. We also have Chad Robertson, who was at BioWare for almost 10 years. And they are they're kind of leading up this new studio and making this new game, Exodus. So we don't know a ton about Exodus yet. They have a trailer they showed at the Game Awards 2023. There's an extended story version of that trailer, which is about twice as long, and it's really good. I'll be showing both of these trailers kind of in the background of this video. And there's also a whole website for Exodus, and it is mostly a big teaser thing. It gives basically like a timeline of how all of these how these humans got to where they are in the Centauri system, and kind of what happened. And so the most general gist I can give is that something was going bad on Earth. We probably killed it because that's what we're doing right now. And they had to escape Earth, and they sent out these ships to all these different star systems to try to find a new Earth or a new home. They found one that was suitable, a place that was suitable, beckoned all of the other arcs to come there eventually. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of years. And then that's kind of where it gets a little fuzzy. There is a prologue series of videos on their website, which are a fun little watch. If you pay attention to the other Mass Effect creators, you'll know that Mr. Hulthin and Kala have made videos about this, probably much better, more in-depth videos about this stuff if you want to check those things out, or this website. But one of the notable videos is talking about how they've taken what we consider livestock or pet animals in our current time, and enlighten them and unlock their intellectual potential to the point where they can communicate with us. They are these like enhanced creatures that are sentient, but they always were, but they're able to actually express that sentience now, and it's led to some hopes that we'll have a little piggy companion or otherwise. It seems like the antagonist here is going to be this group called the Celestials. So far what we've seen is that it's kind of, in my opinion, this kind of generic looking bad spaceman enemy. If you look through the timeline, it talks about a war that happened in the Centauri system before I believe humans were even there, where this celestial race became the dominant race in the place. And I assume we're going to be challenging them to maintain our new home. Another big part that they've teased a lot about this is time travel and time dilation and all of that. There is a factor there that's kind of interesting where it had real interstellar vibes. which at the TGAs, this game was introduced by Matthew McConaughey. So there was a little kind of a fun thing there. They did allude to that that there may be like cooperative alien species. One of the little prologue videos, there's a very short snippet of the person who we're looking through the eyes of using like a Tinder app, and one of the options was for like non-human species or something. And so I found that to be kind of curious. I'm generally interested in what's going on here. I think that this game is giving off really hard Mass Effect vibes. That's not surprising because the writer on this game is Drew Karpyshyn, who wrote Mass Effect 1 and 2 and then left after that, and has written books and kind of done other things, and has now settled and is here working with Archetype to make this game. So, even in the, there is a very Omniblade looking technology in this. The spacesuits, to me, look very Andromeda-esque. Even the Celestials, in my opinion, have kind of a remnant or kind of a just a Mass Effect enemy feel. And in the very tiny snippets of gameplay they showed at the end of the trailer, you definitely, at least I definitely get like modern Mass Effect vibes from it. Where it's a third-person action-adventure shooter, and I assume it will be an RPG. So, I'm curious. I apologize for my voice. I was sick all weekend, and I'm still recovering. So please don't make fun of me too much in the comments. I'm generally interested in this. It feels very on the nose. And what I think is most interesting is that this studio was established, I believe, 4 or 5 years ago. And that means I think there's a pretty good chance they're on a very similar development status as the next Mass Effect. And we've already seen from the most recent Mass Effect 2023 in 7-Day that there's at least extremely subtle or maybe purely speculative hints to time travel or potential time dilation type things. What I'm really curious about is that, there's been a lot of speculation that the next Mass Effect may actually try to take some ideas that Drew Karpyshyn had with Mass Effect 2 that kind of got dropped, like the dark energy timelines and stuff like that, and may try to rework them into the next Mass Effect game to try to pick up that idea. But what would be interesting is if Drew going to this studio to make this game was to fulfill some of those old ideas he had. And we very well may end up with a game from this Archetype Studios coming out that looks a lot like the next Mass Effect game, because they're working off of similar ideas. And it would be really interesting if they both came out at the same time and have kind of similar themes, even if they are probably going to be very significantly different games. One being a completely new IP, the other one being a sequel to an established trilogy and franchise in general. I'm not too worried about them being exactly the same. What I do think is going to be interesting though is kind of trying to figure out where this game can go being from a new studio. We've seen some examples recently of people starting their own studios after acquisitions or after having full careers at one place and then leaving. And a really good example of this is the Callisto Protocol. The studio that made that was founded by the creator of the Dead Space franchise. And he essentially was trying to restart that franchise under a different name, and it didn't work. It didn't sell very well. It wasn't reviewed very well, and it kind of disappeared. And I can't remember. I believe the studio shut down. And so I think there is a little hesitation with these startup studios that immediately try to go straight to AAA games, because that's hard to do. AAA games are hard to make for the biggest publishers in the world. We see right now with EA, with Ubisoft, with Xbox, and even PlayStation. But then you look at something like all these studios that are getting shut down and stuff like that. These games aren't easy to make. You have like the Embracer Group has all of this IP, all of these amazing studios, and can't put anything out, and they've only been cutting jobs, right? So I have a little hesitance because there's always, good intentions and high hopes with these new studios. But when they jump right into a project that seemingly is going to be as big as this one, even with all of these, veteran people founding the company, even with a publisher, which is Wizards of the Coast, which is a very substantial company itself, and it is owned by Hasbro, the toy company. So there is money in this pipeline, which is good for Archetype. I just hope that they don't bite off more than they can chew. I hope that they don't try to go too big with scale and things like that, because that can tank these kind of new IPs and new projects as we've seen before. At the end of the day, I think Exodus looks really interesting. I love a world where this game and the next Mass Effect come out fairly close together, and we have this resurgence of the space sci-fi RPG. What I really liked about Exodus is that it has a very realistic aesthetic. It seems like they're going for a very grounded kind of design on everything, despite all of the sci-fi parts of it. And I think it looks really cool. And at the end of the day, especially if this game comes out, before the next Mass Effect, I'll take whatever I can get in the genre to kind of get me going and keep me going until, that next game that we want. So that's what I think in the comments below. Let me know what you think. If you like this video, if you want more Exodus, Mass Effect, or just other gaming content in general, please subscribe to the channel. You can find me as Bond Diesel all over the place on the internet, including over on Twitch, where I do stream a bit. I have 2 video game podcasts, one called the Bonfire Podcast, which is a weekly gaming news podcast. The other one being the Mass Effect Hype Cast, where I specifically talk about the next Mass Effect game and teases and speculation and news if we have it. You can find those on all podcasting platforms or right here on YouTube. That's all I have for this one, so until next time.